Well, good afternoon. My name is Mark Maynard. You to this Washington Labs Academy event. Useful and informative. We have developed this monthly international approval series to deal with some of the technical and administrative issues that our customers face when obtaining global marketplace product approvals for electronic and electrical devices. We recognize that compliance engineering and certification challenges can be complex, and we're always looking for ways to support our customers. Before we begin, I want to go over a few housekeeping. First, I hope everyone can see the title screen on your computer. Next, we have muted everyone's microphone to keep the meeting quality as high as possible. A recording of the presentation is underway and will be sent to all attendees. A full screen view may be preferred. To select View and Full Screen, then you can use Escape to return to normal view. We encourage a question by enabling the chat or Q&A icon located at the top or side of your screen and typing your question to the host. We will go through all the questions at the end of the presentation as time permits. We'd like to hear from you. You can see contact information here and at the end of the presentation. Please reach out via email to academy@wll.com or to the speaker directly. This presentation questions at the end. Business Development Manager for Washington Labs Academy, and also have a dual role at American Certification Body for international approvals and business development. I've worked in the compliance and RF engineering fields for over 30 years in areas such as EMC/EMI, wireless telecom, product safety, design for the environment, and quality management systems. I'm a senior member of the IEEE and immediate past president of the Product Safety Engineering Society. Also volunteer on an annual basis with the IEEE EMC and System Integration, Signal Integration Product and Power Integration Symposium Committee. Some of the vocabulary will be included today as a local representative or local rep. This is an in-country agent authorized via a registered letter of authority or authorization to serve as an official for an importing manufacturing company. GDP, PPP is the gross domestic product on a purchasing power parity basis, and this is found by dividing the GDP by the population of each country. It kind of gives you a rough estimate of the individual purchasing power for a citizen in each country. Banking. Both these last two, GDP, PPP, and the population, kind of give you ideal market size. Even though we're not marketing people, sometimes we're asked to weigh in on opinions as a compliance specialist. Markets make the most sense. I think you'll find that Taiwan is pretty much up the top for companies going global. I do want to give credit to the CIA World Factbook. All the maps, photos, flag artwork, and country demographic information are courtesy the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency World Factbook sites. They allow public use as long as you give them credit, and that's what this is, and including the copyright notice. It's a good place to go if you're wanting to learn more about any of these countries we're discussing in our monthly series. So today we're demographics of it, and then electrical products that most of us are involved with. It's Bureau of Standards Metrology and Inspection, that's BSMI, and the National Communications Commission, National Communications Commission, or NCC. Most time will be spent on BSMI since they have the most intensive programs and relate to most of the electrical and electronic equipment that we're going to be discussing today. So it's located just off the southeast coast of China, between south of Japan and east of the Koreas. And its history dates back to after World War II, when it declared itself an independent country from China, although China doesn't recognize that. It's one of the world's leading economies, ranked 23 in the world for GDP PPP. And in these figures for GDP PPP, but you see it's number 15 exporter, number 20 importer. So for its size, it has a huge amount of exports going on. And the development of Taiwan was one of the first areas outside the U.S. to start really developing their manufacturing facilities, and then their product development facilities, and China following about 10 years after that, although China is, by sheer size, has dwarfed everybody at this point. But it is a very large marketplace for high-tech products. Their IT devices and cell phones, smartphones, smart TVs. And the majority of the population lives in urban areas where there's a good infrastructure for broadband and wireless devices. Population, 2/3 of the graduating high school students accepted for university. Median age is a few years older than the median age in the U.S., around 40.7. High number of early tech adopters. Not as quite as fast as Japan, but they're pretty much right at the lead of the pack with everybody. It's great. Their infrastructure, you'll notice here, remember the population ranked 55th in the world, but their mobile cellular internet users and landlines are far above that. So per person, they have more of that type internet and cell infrastructure. And as I mentioned, they have a very large industrial base for product development and manufacturing. So we're going to jump into BSMI, the Bureau of Standards Metrology and Inspection. If you aren't familiar with the term metrology, it refers to measuring things, and so that's their sort of like their NIST combined with FCC. So the National Institute of Standards and Technology here in the U.S. and the FCC, Federal Communications in the U.S. So it's kind of combined for Taiwan. They are the designating authority for EMC, EMI, product safety, and it excludes specifically the wireless and telecom, which is covered by NCC, which we'll be discussing in the next section. It's under the authority of Taiwan Government Ministry of Economic Affairs. You've got a really good website. You click on this link and then choose the English language option. It'll be on the top right or on the side right side of your pane, depending on what device you're using to connect to them. Some of the common standards are on CISPR. Some familiar ones you seen in the 30 series that have come into effect are also there. But this is some standard references for some of the more common ones you may be encountering. Standard used for BSMI for product safety is based on the IEEE 6950, and this is required for all IT equipment, multimedia, that's your audio, video, displays, all those types of things, and they have the mandatory inspection and testing requirements, and they can get either or type of, we'll talk about in a few more slides. The IEC 62368 standard that we're adopting here in the U.S. and European Union, and the rest of the countries are following right along with that, major market countries, I should. So that's just another one of the transitions that will be happening. IEEE products reports a designated national certification body under the IEEE, the BSM for registration. So you're going to have that report. So it'll have to have the Taiwan specific country deviations. It does have a unique AC 220 volts at 60 hertz, which is not typical. Usually your 220 or 230 voltages are at 50 hertz. So make sure that your product's tested. They won't accept results if it's tested at 220 50 hertz or 120 60 hertz. It's got to be their specific voltage and current ranking. Just accept a generic CB report's got deviations in there for Taiwan and the product test lab. So several options for product approvals. Some are more common than others. The most common nowadays, the Declaration of Conformity, or the DOC, is second. There's batch by batch inspection, so that means you may ship in 1,000 units and have that batch tested, and then if you sell all those out, you may send in another batch. That typically wouldn't apply to electronics, but it can occasionally. There's type approvals and restoration of management systems, where they actually certify your factories to be able to ship compliant products. Manufacturer approvals and weights and measuring equipment verification. You can guess it applies to things that weigh and measure, so like test equipment. First three schemes are the most common. So restoration of product certification, declaration of conformity, or batch inspection. So restoration of product certification ensures continued regulatory compliance of the product, and so it makes it easier to get into the country. You're not going to spend a lot of time at customs. It does require type testing and certification, and it's going to include conformity assessment procedures and design and manufacturing stains. Plants are going to have to, just have the stain 9,000 quality management system in place. So we've got repeatable processes. We've got a closed loop on your error corrections and all the standard things you would expect in a modern manufacturing facility. So the mark looks something like this: a circle with a arrow going from left to right. Certs are normally valid for 3 years, and they can be placed on the market after receiving the certification. So you can't ship products in there until they're labeled and have the certification to back that label. Follow the BSMI process. I know this is the eye chart here. This is from their website. How the process is, and so make sure you're following. They're very much sticklers about their process. They don't like jumping ahead in steps or whatever. They want it step by step, that you've followed the natural sequence that's required, and or have completed all the actions that are required to receive the certification. And here's just another example of how the manufacturing, showing the different types of approvals here. As you look down there, is DOC, declaring conformity, full quality assurance, production quality assurance, and so different schemes that are in there. And these can all be found on the website, which I've provided at the end of this presentation. So product submittal should always include the user manual specifications written in traditional Chinese, not simplified Chinese. Traditional Chinese is the Chinese text used in Taiwan. Simplified is the Chinese text used in China. Make sure you don't confuse the two. That would be a reason for a stop ship or not allowed to enter into the market in Taiwan if it doesn't have traditional Chinese characters. User manuals written in English are acceptable if it's a Class A product. That means something is normally going to be installed by a professional in an industrial or office environment or manufacturing environment. And they won't block diagrams. These are the theory of operation type, which says it's going through a CPU and display and whatever the blocks are that you're putting in there for the product to show how it operates. These product submittals should always include a table or listing EMC components and emission sources. So this is all the standard thing you would include in a FCC report. So you probably already got this information if you're starting with FCC and the European Union CE reports. And so it's not anything really unexpected. They do want color photos. It used to be a standard 4x6, but that are so you can really see the details in there. They're wanting to know when they do market surveillance, they can identify that if anything's changed. And as we'll talk about in a minute, they're have a real robust market surveillance program in place in Taiwan. And they also want that test report. That's going to go there. It has to be issued within 1 year of the submittal by the BSMI designated laboratory. The test labs that are used for these reports must be authorized by BSMI. Accreditation requirements are based on the ISO or IEC 17025 quality management standard for test labs. They have designated EMC test labs in Taiwan. There are some foreign test labs that are designated by the BSMI also, and you can find a list of all these authorized labs from their website. The DLC applicants must prepare all the relevant and required technical documents to ensure that the product is in conformance, and based on this, then a declaration of conformity can be issued. Somehow, this is not like a declaration of conformity that you're used to with the EU. You still have to file the paperwork with the agency, and the verification documents have to be kept on hand for at least 5 years after the life of the product. And once again, the testing has to be done into BSMI or designated BSMI approved manufacturer, European Union, for certain manufacturers. These are things that are stable with low safety risk. So, this might be something that like a USB key or low powered battery device, or create little impact on consumers. Anything that's going to have a major safety risk is going to have to be in the program. Make sure you're consulting with your agents in country or with the agency directly to make sure you're filing under the right category. Batch by batch inspection. These are limited production, so maybe you're only going to produce 100 of them, and that's it. So this, and it says at the discretion of BSMI, a type approval certificate may be required. So even if you want to go with that batch, you make sure that you have permission to do that, because they may say no, this is something because it's got a potential hazards in it. Number of test samples are selected will vary according to what the commodity is. So you can imagine, higher the risk, the more samples they're probably going to want. Compliance documents are product passes testing, so you're still going to have a certificate for the batch things, and that's the paperwork that will get you through customs. Then the products can be brought into the country. So market surveillance, as I mentioned, they've really got a robust system in place. So you want to make sure that your products you're making, or as you submitted, that they are built as they were designed and as you submitted, and they have the same EMI profiles and EMC profiles. Voltage and currents are in the same, covered under the ranges. So their market BSMI also, in 5th divisions, are responsible for planning, supervision, see how to or just about market surveillance. So that kind of gives you an indication of the importance they place on it. And so they have branch offices around the country also, in addition to Taipei. So they're going to collect information on violations, conduct product investigations, supervise recall, improvement of products by manufacturers, and provide advice to the manufacturers, and also educate the consumers on the safe operation of it. So all these standard things you would expect for market surveillance, they're just a little bit more robust with getting out in the field and looking for things. They're going to look, if there's a risky product or something that's going to be used, say in a water environment, they know it could produce a shock hazard. They're probably going to be checking those more than they would be checking a battery-powered radio or something like that. Specific DLC market surveillance, prepare the technical document forms there. So there's going to be inspection standards will be set by BSMI, the criteria for each, but the manufacturers will be informed of that. And they may require testing, and in which case you have to use a designated test lab that's approved by BSMI to do the testing. So any thing they want on market surveillance, the DOC has to be provided within 24 hours, and any technical docs that they've requested have to be in their hands within 10 business days. DOC and relevant technical docs have to be retained for at least 5 years after the end of life of the product, after the production has stopped. And so that's why DOCs, they want low risk devices. There, things like, as you examples here, computer components like motherboards. So they're going to look at, locations displayed. So maybe like a store. If the manufacturer has a store location like an Apple store or a Microsoft store, they can go there and look for them. And check for marks. They may request samples, those type of things, and or they may go into a place of business where they're being used. So they can go to your warehouses and look at them. So these are the types of annual education plans with educating consumers and the manufacturers. They have their surveillance plans that they prepare every year, and then they have network consumer goods information. Also is input by consumer goods or consumer protection groups, and other sources of information like the Government Consumer Protection Commission. They draft it by taking into account, risk assessments, what's most likely or to cause a problem, what's the most issues, characteristics of different types of products. For instance, they know like a battery powered hoverboard is more than something. So with that, they're going to have their plans, educate the consumers and the manufacturers on it, and then sampling of the products and in the warehouses. And then in the right way, they have the right marks, they have the right labels on the boxes. If there's looking for products that have been prohibited for something that hasn't received approval yet, that'd be one example. And anything's been recalled, they can see that recalled within the specified time limit that BSMI has given the manufacturer. And then that was kind of similar things for both DOC and the RPC marks. And make sure that they're not, the recall products aren't still on the market. Next, we got the National Communications Commission. This is their designated terminal equipment. That's the TTE being the office phone equipment, office central office equipment. Came into being this DGT agency that you may have been familiar with. And they're an independent government regulatory agency reporting only to the executive office of the Taiwan government. So they do have a good website, both traditional Chinese and English. Here's the URLs for both of them, where you can access them at. And so pretty much like the FCC, they regulate development communications, promote competition, about consumer protection, broadcast licensing, all the standard things. It kind of makes it look like it was modeled on the FCC. Which telecom equipment has is mandatory compliance approvals that NCC sets, and they want to make sure it's going to be compatible with existing telecom infrastructure in Taiwan, so protecting both their telephone exchange systems and their spectrum. It's like any country, the spectrum is a natural resource of that country, and they get to regulate it within their borders, but majority of countries cooperate on the international scale with other countries. Always work as you've noticed with different power levels and spectrum usage changing from country to country for certain frequency bands. So they will provide equal and open access, require telecom enterprise provide fair and non-discriminatory services. Sounds a lot like the FCC doctrine, but it's basically the same thing. They're also going to verify the competence of conformity assessment bodies. So this is kind of what NIST does in the U.S., but so the NCC has got a division that does that. And they also do certification assessment bodies that can both withdraw and restate designations. So both of these functions in the U.S. are done by the National Institute of Standards and Science and Technology. So they're all within the same one there. So the Taiwan Telecommunications Act has different sections, and here's some of the more common ones you may has network equipment, general requirements. Then TTE equipment, or the telephone interchange equipment, is 42 and 44. Then you've got 46 for radio and cable general requirements, internet service, ISM, controlled radio equipment general requirements, and some of the more common acts you may want to review. So CNLA is the Chinese National Laboratory Accreditation. It's the test lab accreditation body of Taiwan. And so they're the telecom authority for the MRA accreditation body, with the mutual recognition agreements that U.S. and other countries have with them, like that APEC. Chinese National Accreditation Board is Taiwan's accreditation authority, recognizing for recognized certification body designation, and MRAs with other countries, mutual recognition agreements where they recognize testing, for instance, from the U.S. Can do the testing for BSMI standards, and they can do testing for FCC. So the two main websites, home pages, there are the BSMIs at BSMI is the acronym for Taiwan, and then the ncc.gov.tw. You can go directly English. On the BSMI site, you have to go to that web page. It'll be, but on the right or at the top right corner, depending on your device, there'll be a English tab where you can click on the word English, and it will take you to the English version. I have found some documents are not in the translation job, translating from the traditional. So don't take a standard there that's in Chinese and translate it and think you've got the translation. Any standards you're using are officially translated. So in summary, so Taiwan is a very attractive established market, but there are some sticking points that you need to be aware of. One is political conflict between Taiwan and China can be exacerbated by like things like the traditional Chinese versus simplified Chinese text. There are a lot of frequent new updated requirements, so you need to have a good connection with the agency or working with agents that are very familiar with the agency. Occasionally, trade issues is something that's come up over the past couple of years, that not just with Taiwan, but worldwide, that can be things you have to look at. And also another great source for information is industry affinity groups like the IEEE. TCBC is a U.S. organization, Telecommunications Certification Body Council. It works with the FCC and also other worldwide regulators, and they have workshops twice a year. And the ITU is the International Telephone Union, and that's another organization that has a lot, not so much on compliance, but on the you can find the agencies that are responsible in each country for those. So it's good sources of information. So I'm going to check questions now. And first question is, what other product assigned by the HS code 84 and 85 about BSMI for safety and EMC scope? I'm assuming the HS codes are standardized, so that's what customs will know what product category the device is in. So there is a list available on their BSMI website where you can find that. And I'll also try to include that in the link that we send out. There will be a PDF copy of the slide deck will be sent out to everybody that registers for this event, as well as a link to the recording of the event if you want to share it with others. Next question, can Washington Labs do NCC testing, or does it have to be done in Taiwan? Well, Washington Labs actually has a test lab in Taiwan, so that's where we have our Taiwan testing done at. There are labs, as I mentioned, that are authorized. You can go to the NCC website and find a list of authorized labs that can do that type of testing. I'm going to check on, okay, nothing in chat. And that was all we had in Q&A. And so I want to thank y'all for joining in today. You can contact me if you think of any additional questions on today's topic, or if you need assistance on your next international approvals project. I'd also like to hear your ideas or suggestions for any future webinar topics. I want to mention the IEEE Product Safety Engineering Society has started putting on a second the IEEE that is held in San Jose in May every year, and now they've started doing one 6 months later in Boston, and so we can get both West Coast and East Coast. And this will be a 2-day conference, and it's not just product safety. The EMI, the EMC Society is a sister society, and they always have a lot of people from that society come and give a presentation. Environmental reliability, military industrial, so it's a full plate of presentations. The website link is given there, spce2018.org. You can contact me for more information on that. We have an approval series of webinars, and they are every month, just like this one. So next month will be November 8th, South Korea, December 13th, non-EU European compliance. These are European countries Union or don't accept the European Union. And then January 10th next year, we've already got the, I think it's going to be published on the website soon. Africa compliance, the 25 largest countries. There's 50 countries in Africa. But if you're just starting to branch out in the world, you may want to stick with the largest market countries there as you're expanding out. And the full page can be seen at wll.com/academy. If you're interested for signing up for any Washington Labs webinars, please go to that site and look around. We can also provide customized training at your place or ours. I want to thank y'all for joining me today. This concludes today's webinar. On behalf of myself and the entire Washington Labs Academy team, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Please be sure to contact us with any additional questions or to find out how we can help make your next compliance project a success. I will now close the meeting. Thanks and goodbye.